Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So good to see you all. Today we got a special one for you. Another beautiful soul has given me access to their account. They will remain hidden for anonymous reasons because I don't want you guys bombarding them. But this is not an NA server account. This is an EU service account. So my ping you're going to notice is going to be a lot higher than what I normally would play on. Usually I'm somewhere in the 10 to 15 range. As you can see, I've got 90 ping going on right here. But we're doing the Imaginarium Theater, the hardest version of it with the 10 floors. They asked me to complete it for them. I think it's what Electro, Pyro, and then Geo were the three elements, and they were not confident in their skills to complete it. They do not enjoy it, and they asked me if I could do it for them. Now listen. You already know. You give me the keys to the kingdom, and I'm walking in there with my arms out saying, "Where's my throne?" All jokes aside, here we are doing the first floor. The whole key to the Imaginarium Theater is that you use your weakest characters in the first 3 to 5 floors, so that way you save your strongest ones on the last 5 floors, because those are the ones that have the highest health pools, and then they have different stipulations that make it harder to survive. Now listen, again, you're going to see certain points where I stand still awkwardly for half a second to a second, because whenever I switch characters, because I have higher ping than normal, it actually takes a half a second to register, and so obviously it doesn't look as pretty and as smooth as what it would usually look like on my account, which is fine, not the end of the world. But biggest thing that I was doing here is I was trying to aim for some overloaded reactions, because I noticed Kaching, obviously with Chevreuse is going to be a buffer for Electro, and then usually Dea would be there for sustaining purposes, so that way you have interruption resistance. But I also noticed that her burst, I mean, she's not like super strong, obviously, in any sense of the word, but in relation to the other characters I was using on this team, she actually does a decent amount of damage with her burst and the reaction she was having. Like right here, take a peek at these numbers here, right? 8,000, 8,000, 8,000. It's not the highest number, but it's doing a decent amount of damage. Then you're going to switch over to Kaching, overloaded reaction, and you're going to get her burst and skill damage off. We know that her best playstyle for highest DPS is charge attacks, which is why you see me doing that there. It does consume stamina though, so you have to keep an eye on that. And because we have Kaching 2.0 over here in Chiori, I just kind of kept switching back and forth. I mean, it's not terribly like, you know, every time I use Dea right there, for instance, I use Kaching right after, so I get that overload reaction, extra damage. You see when I'm charge attacking with her, you keep seeing those explosions happening. That's Dea's skill proccing, and I'm getting a little bit of extra pyro, which is in turn giving me electro and pyro overloaded reactions. Now, that Treacherous Thunder, if you take too long on these non-timed ones, see how it says Treacherous Thunder number 2, Mighty Powerful Thunder will be rained down above. If you take too long in this, your characters start taking consistent damage, and it only gets stronger and stronger the longer you take. By the way, here, that's a C2 Kaniche, if I'm not mistaken, so you obviously knew that that was going to be the next character I chose. So the goal of the Treacherous Thunder is to beat the floor before it starts to get to a lethal range, like Treacherous Thunder 3 and above, is when you start seeing your character losing multiple thousands of HP every few seconds, and that's really hard to keep up with while you're also being attacked and all that good stuff. Right there, Free Mystery Cache, I think I just chose a refresh if I'm not mistaken. Okay, let's talk about these cards real quick. I don't like the Fatui because they're too inconsistent. They move around a lot, and they have elemental shields. And I don't like the Nobuashi because they have impervious moments where their resistance is increased, and they also regenerate their health. So I always go for the mechanized enemies, because even though they can freeze you and they generally have higher health pools, they don't move around as much. So as long as you know which ones aggro to you and which ones don't, you can manipulate them perfectly to your advantage. Again, I want to use my strongest characters for the later floors, so I'm going to use the weakest characters like Kaching, Chevreuse, Dea, and Chiori again. Kaniche, Fischl, and Ningguang are all like criminally underrated, and I want to save them for higher floors, because not only will there probably be a moment where I need Geo for Geo shields for Ningguang, but she also does a lot of damage. Kaniche is C2, like I said, so I knew that he was going to do a good amount of damage. And then we have Fischl, who is just like, since day one, has literally been a meta unit, and even though Yao Miko technically power crept her, she still does so much damage. It's like, what, a 5%, maybe 10% difference in damage? She's just so freaking good. Same concept here as before. Drop Dea's skill, you get your resistance interruption increased, and then you get to use her skill for extra damage, using Kaching and Chevreuse to buff my electro damage and then proc those overloaded reactions. Now this big mechanized enemy is Cryo, right? and he does not really aggro well to you, but that other mechanical humanoid one is an aggro character who comes right over to you. So I started attacking this bad boy, allowing them both to come to me, and then I just attacked them both simultaneously within Dea's field, and you can see I keep proccing those overloaded thanks to Dea's little skill. Pop this ultimate here, switch over to Dea. I tried to use a skill, didn't have it ready yet. Should probably use Chevreuse, and then I'll probably use Kaching again once I do Chiori here. And yep, exactly. It's all about the overloaded reaction. Overloaded, in my opinion, is like a top 3 reaction in the game. It's just not as good as other reactions because you take so much damage yourself. And if the enemy is small and they can actually be maneuvered, then they go flying because the reaction is so explosive, quite literally. Now you can see with Treacherous Thunder, I'm taking version 1, and here's version 2. Notice now how my health just starts shrinking. You can actually dodge it, but it's doing 1700 damage right now for each tick. If you don't be quick enough about it, you are going to pay the price, so you got to be fast with it on these ones. Now we're at Act 3, and I think I only have 4 characters right now. Yeah, that's my cast. So in my head, I'm team building, and I'm like, alright, Diluc, Fischl, maybe Yelan, and then filling in that 4th spot, maybe Ningguang. That could be a decent team right there. I get Vaporized procs. Diluc's usually pretty good overall. And yeah, I could probably rock with that. Then I decided to go here. Let's get another companion. Arlecchino would definitely be good. Xiangling is meta as well as a sub DPS, but I really wanted to have my DPS solidified before I went for the sub because I already had decent subs here. So then I decided, okay, it's finally time to get into the battle. Let's rock, and let's see what we can do. Now for the teams. I had to reset on this guy so many times because he just like kept killing me and I didn't have enough damage from the characters I was choosing. So eventually I went with Kaniche, Diluc, Fischl, and Ningguang. Please do not judge my Kaniche playstyle. I do not own this guy on my own account. I don't know how he works, and I did not play him optimally. I realized that once I started editing this video that I was not playing him optimally at all. Like, I'm supposed to be using his skill within the field, I'm pretty sure, on the floor there. If I'm not mistaken, again, I still don't know fully for sure. And I never did. I just spam his normal attack until I felt like it was 2 or 3 times in, and then I would use his skill again. Because that's the instructions I was given by the owner of this account, to be honest. I asked him, like, how does Kaniche work? Because you have him C2, and I have no idea how he plays. And they told me, just go counterclockwise, like 2 or 3 times, and then use his skill. I was like, okay, I could do that. Sounds simple enough. So that's exactly what I did. So I know you're listening to this, and I blame you for that. You know who you are, you special little somebody. Anyways, using Ningguang's skill there, you know that you run through the screen to get an extra geo damage bonus, so that's what I was doing when I was Ningguang there. Then I would just use Kaniche, go counterclockwise 2 or 3 times, and use a skill. I was not doing it optimally, and I still was doing almost 200k per hit there, so it all worked out in the end, but damn, I was not optimal about it. So in my head here, I'm thinking, oh, Kujosara or Beto. I want Kujosara because I still got Fischl on the team. And eventually, whenever I use her as a sub DPS, we know that Kujosara buffs your electro damage. So perfect choice there. Now I chose another companion, Razor or Sucrose. Sucrose wouldn't be bad, but she's really only great when it's small enemies that can be grouped. So I went with Razor, and I knew that I'd have to use them pretty quickly because we're getting to the higher floors. Another companion, obviously we're choosing Raiden. I think that's a C2 Raiden that I took from somebody else as support, so I had to have her on my team. And then in terms of enemies, we decided to go with the Ruin Guards, because as long as you have a bow character on the team, you literally don't even have to kill them, just keep them distracted, knock them down of 2 perfect shots to the eye. They sit down and they let you do any damage to them. So as long as you have at least 1 bow character and decent aim, you can literally cheese this and make it super easy. Like you can see, for instance, that I have Kujosara with my Fischl, so I can buff her damage. I chose Razor as my on-field DPS because I had that Kujosara buff, and he's doing double physical damage and electro damage all in one. And then Ningguang in general, even though she's Geo, just hits really hard and always seems to do a lot of damage. Now, one thing I noticed with these Ruin Guards is after they stand up, you can't obviously immediately put them back down by hitting them in their soft spot in the eye. So, if you don't continuously attack them and keep the pressure on, they literally lose interest in you and they just start walking towards the little defensive unit that you have to protect. So not only do you have to stay aggressive and completely on them after they stand back up, if you kill them too quickly, but then you got to move to the next spot because they're spawning in a clockwise position. So the next one, basically where the camera is focused right now, the next enemy is going to spawn right there. But pretty much same rotation. Drop Fischl's skill or burst, depending on which one it is. So I have Oz in the field. Kujosara for the electro damage bonus, and then we have Razor to do some damage. Obviously Ningguang as well, running through her shield and then using her C6 ability to use her ultimate and then use her charge attack, which also packs a heavy punch on these guys. So now the next Ruin Guard again spawns behind me. Just use a bow character, sit them down right on their ass. Shot 1, shot 2. Deploy Official, right? I should pretty much do that right away. So here's Official. Now I'm going to use my Kujosara to buff. Now we're using Razor because he's doing electro damage. And basically I've got 2 different procs of electro damage along with my physical damage from his Buster Blade, Claymore thing, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a fish actually. I put a fish on him. Oh well. And then once I sit him down, Ningguang, skill into a burst, which I should have ran through the screen like I just did right there for the extra geo damage, but whatever. My whole goal here was run through the screen, kill this guy with the little slither of health he has, and then charge attack immediately, but he took way too long to die. Now watch what I'm talking about here. See how I'm not keeping the pressure on, I'm attacking from afar? He got too close to the defensive unit and then ignored me and started attacking it. So instead of completing it with 100% health, I only had 98% health. But at this point, because it's a time trial, I knew that I'd won, so I was just spamming attacks for no reason at all. But that's it. You can use your weakest characters, just keep a bow character, and you can knock out that one super easily. So my thought process here was, even though Cookie Shinobu is really good for healing, she is a overall Hyper Bloom specialist, and Klee would match really well with Kanich since I needed another pyro damage dealer. A mystery cache for free. Running over my 2 options here, I was thinking, okay, well, Supreme Rich Rewards or the other one where I get to choose a character. I'm obviously going to choose my character ahead of time. And again, we chose the Ruin Guards because the Hydro enemies, I think there's like 30 of them you have to kill, and they also do area effect damage, so it's really, really tedious, and I didn't have a good healer for the long range. And then obviously with the Wolf Lords, they do damage to you once they hit you once over time, so they're basically like dot damage, DOT. And I don't have a really good healer right now, so I was really just looking at, well, what could I do with DPSs? Obviously, the Ruin Guards would be the best case scenario, because I know how to make them maneuver to exactly where I need them, and there's not that many you need to kill, they just have a high health pool, so I just felt like it was the overall better option here. So again, I decided to go with my Arlecchino. We got Yelan, then Razor and Diluc. Razor and Diluc are just there in spirit, they're not really there to do that much damage. Unfortunately, because the Imaginarium Theater requires you to have 4 characters before you can enter any floor, I have to choose characters that aren't that good, and I have to have 2, 3, 1 even that do enough damage in order to maintain the flow that I need. But anyways, these guys, super easy, nothing difficult. They like to back up from you, so I try to align myself away from one of them so he backs into the other. But because I was killing him so fast, if Arlecchinos vaporizes there, it really didn't matter. That guy, I hate these ones, they're just time wasters. One of them does an area effect, the other one decides to go underground, just wasting time. As for the rotation, super simple. Use Arlecchino's skill, use her ult, use her skill again, switch on to Yelan, get her skills off. Hopefully her burst is up by that point. Wait like 1 or 2 more seconds before using the charge attack, because I think you need like 4 to 5 seconds for Arlecchino to get her max damage buff when she's off field after using her skill to get the max damage application from her. And then after that, you just hope that you're getting a lot of vaporizes and that she does a lot of damage. I mean, just of these 2 alone, I was seeing like 100,000 at one point, and I only had to kill 7 enemies. I'm already 8 out of 7 here, so at this point it was just a victory lap for me. But yeah, Arlecchino and Yelan combined pretty much in any team composition is going to do a lot of damage, because Yelan in general does a lot of damage. And then you got obviously Arlecchino, who is the top Pyro DPS right now. Until Mavika comes along, who knows what happens with the Pyro Archon. Some people, like in my opinion, I think she's going to power creep everyone as like a DPS, but she's going to be Burgeon related just because of Emily that came out, and then Kanich, it seems to be like what their focus is right now. But I hope I'm wrong and she's a power creep to either Bennett or Xiangling, or both, and like power creeps on both in the same kit. That would be amazing. We'll see if she's a sub, a DPS, or if she's just a support though. So once we completed that, we moved on to our next selection, but because I had already chose Venti from that one cache, we didn't get a choice to choose the character here, so we went ahead to the cards. Obviously at this point I want to get my companions up, so I went to the companion invite. Let me get a good old list here, and you already know once I saw this, I was like, alright, perfect. We've got a Yoimiya, we've got Clorinde, we've got a Zhengli, and a Zhongli. This is like pretty much as perfect as it could be, so I went ahead and chose Yoimiya because I felt like she would match really well with my Yelan. I could throw Klee in there for double Pyro Resonance, and then I could have Venti as maybe like the third or fourth one, so that way I can get some grouping and get some extra damage out of them. So I felt like overall this team could definitely work. Obviously here I felt like Bennett would be the better choice because he's a universal buffer and he's a healer, and I had no healers up until this point, so I needed to start thinking about support characters, not just DPSs. So we go ahead and move on to the next chamber. They only gave us one option to fight, so it's probably a boss fight. And we chose Kanich, Klee, Kujosara, and Yoimiya. Yoimiya was kind of just one of the ones that was like the lesser of two evils, because I already had a heavy hitter in C2 Kanich, and I didn't want to mess around with the C2 R1 Raiden yet, or Arlecchino, because both of them were like the strongest DPSs I had. Here was the idea behind this enemy. I had to fight this guy many times with different teams to find out if I was going to have to be forced to use my Raiden and or my Arlecchino, because I needed high DPS since he had this Geo shield, and I pretty much had no Geo characters at this point. But what I found is, it looks like Klee, because she's a heavy attack hitter, especially for charge attack, melts away his shield, and so does Kanich's Claymore. So as long as I was being consistent with Klee and using her charge attack and skill, and then mixing it in Kanich's attacks and kind of doing the Burgeon effect at the same time, I was doing massive damage to shred his shield, and then got that vulnerability where I could hit that 100-something thousand, 200-something thousand with Kanich. So it actually worked out really nicely. Better than I expected. This Geo Shield I thought was going to be a lot more difficult than it was, and it was hard trying to find the right team for him. But once you applied the burning through Klee, used her charge attack to destroy the shield, used Kanich's Claymore as well to kind of melt it down, it was like a walk in the park at this point. Piece of cake, quite literally. So at this point, we just finish him off. Boom, 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 couple attacks, and bam, he is gone. 86,000. Again, I don't use Kanich on my own account. I didn't pull for him, I didn't want him, but I was genuinely surprised of how well he was doing. I'm talking to you directly, the owner of this account. You know who you are. You love Kanich, and you would love for me to just glaze you right now, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to say that he's okay. He's not the best thing in the world, but he's okay. Anyways, moving on from that. So now we're over in the Mystery Cachet effect. I end up going with Surprise Rich Reward because I want to get the Mystery Cachet at the 15 flowers. So I go ahead and pick that again, and it gives me the option of picking one enemy or character that has one or no vigor and give them one extra one, or an additional selectable event, which I don't want the events because I've pretty much gotten everything I need from that. And I get Klee and I get Kanich, and you best believe our boy Kanich was coming back with us. And once again, I had the great pleasure of choosing which enemies I wanted to face. I didn't want the first ones because it was more elemental reaction based. I didn't want the second ones because they take away your energy recharge, and they're just annoying because they kind of move around a lot. So again, we went with the robots. Just in general, they stand still a lot more and are way easier to conquer. So again, for my teams here, we chose Raiden finally. We're in Act 7. We're in the final 3 floors. So now I've got Raiden, I've got my Arlecchino, and my Kanich ready to go for the next 3 floors. So we're just going to use Raiden, Bennett, get a little bit of Klee action and Venti action in there. I don't think Venti draws him in here, but if anything else, it'll just be extra damage. So get him to pop that all right in the middle, get a bunch of overloaded reactions, and insta-kill them all with this Raiden burst. It's a pretty fun little thing here. You take away pretty much almost all their health with one rotation. We get everyone dead, and now it's on to the next one. So basically the same rotation, use Bennett, get a little bit of Klee and Venti action in here, and then Raiden burst, and we're good to go. And it's even swirling pyro, so it's going to be even a bigger hit, and the overloaded damage did 200,000 damage, exactly what we were looking for. And voila, just like that, within 45 seconds, we cleared out that floor with no trouble at all. At this point, I knew it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. It was just a matter of getting everything. And then look, Zhang Li right there. I didn't even have to think about it. Zhang Li was coming home. She's a great sub DPS. Exactly what we were looking for. So at this point, we've accumulated 480 of the flowers. We're on our last 2 acts of Act 8, or 3, I should say, of Act 8, 9, and 10. And I'm kind of just looking over the cast that I have here, formulating teams in my head, and I determined that I don't really need any extra help right now. I'm going to complete this floor of who I have. So we got Raiden, Yoimiya is just there in spirit, Klee, and then we put Arataki Ito on the team because we needed some Geo shredding here, right? So the goal is use Ito until his shield is completely gone. Then I use Klee so I can apply Pyro, and then switch immediately to Raiden to get the overloaded burst, or the overloaded reaction on her burst for maximum damage. And then at that point, we just avoid the slams that it does, the little earthquake slams there on the ground, and we attack, attack, attack. All right, get as much damage as we can. That's why I switched to Uemiya, because now she's going to be doing more damage of her skill than Raiden of her normal attacks that are not electro-infused. And we just keep proccing the overloaded because of Raiden's skill being active and Uemiya doing her thing. The shield's back up, back to Arataki Ito using his skill and his ultimate. As soon as it's off, straight to Raiden for the overloaded burst, which actually it wasn't overloaded for that one, but for the burst, big damage, which was like 150k. And we just repeat the process one more time. Yeah, I got a little bit trippy here. Use my my Klee skill here right into... I thought that it was going to pop the shield there, which is why I tried to do the Arataki Ito there. But because I mistimed it, I switched to Uemiya for a little extra damage. Back to Ito for his skill and eventually into his burst. Shred down the shield and back to Raiden for her burst again, making it a nice quick cycle. Now I screwed this part up here. As soon as I hit, I didn't jump quickly, I dashed and then jumped, so I took damage on that jump there and died. I was a little bit afraid that I was going to have to reset this run because of poor execution, because I only had about 10 seconds left there, but luckily Uemiya came through and gave a little bit of extra damage that we needed in order to clear that floor, and now we are moving on to the last two floors. At this point I knew it was over because I saw Clarinde and she is also a great character. So at this point, I'm like, all right, last two floors. I've got 605 of the flowers. I can start looking at buffing myself up as much as possible and getting as many characters on my team as possible. Zhongli, an obvious choice, the greatest universal shielder in the game. He still has been yet to be power crept, and he came out, what, 1.1, 1.2? I don't know. It's been a long time that he's been out. We're going to go ahead and basically buff ourselves up for all the potential reactions that we're going to come across. And of course, we're going to go with the Ruin Guards because in my opinion, they're just the easiest fight. If you have trouble with them, too many of them, you can shoot them in the eye and sit them down. Otherwise, they're real easy to kill. They're not really difficult. So we're going to bring out the Clarinde and the Zhongli build, along with Cookie Shinobu for double Electro Resonance, and then the Overloaded reaction. And then obviously shielding in general with Zhongli, because we can actually use him twice, since this is his first time being used, and we have 2 floors left, so he can be used in the last 2 floors 100%. So at this point, you're going to use your Zhongli burst, have them applying pyro, and then you're going to use your Clarinde. Make sure that you use her skill into 3 normal attacks, and then you use her skill again, and that's the rotation. So skill, 3 normal attacks, skill, 3 normal attacks, skill, 3 normal attacks, and that's it. Real easy to play here. Now this character was so freaking annoying. He kept regenerating health, and I think it was based off the enemies around him. So instead of trying to kill all the enemies one by one around him, I just kind of forced it with brute force and kept attacking him over and over. So we kept using Zhongli, trying to get her burst off. Obviously the shield's already up, so then it's Clarinde, normal attack, normal attack, normal attack, dash, 3, 3, 3. So 3 dash, 3 dash, 3 dash. That's basically what I was doing. So normal attack, normal attack, normal attack, dash, normal attack, normal attack, normal attack, dash, over and over and over. Clarinde is a real simple character. She's just fun and aesthetically pleasing to play. And at this point, we needed 2 of the main enemies to die, and I was already 1 in. I had a feeling that this was going to be the end for this guy too. With 20 seconds left, I knew that he wasn't going to get enough heals off to be able to withstand my onslaught, especially if my burst up here got my shield. I'm going to proc the ultimate from Cookie Shinobu, and then it's going to be ultimate from Clarinde back into her normal attack and dashes. I mean, it was pretty easy at this point. Only needed 2, and we got 2. And these weren't even the strongest characters. I still had Kenichi I could have used. I had Arlecchino I could have used. So we were solid, you know what I mean? But anyways, at that point, we pick whichever character. It doesn't even matter. I just choose Yunjin here just in case there's a Geo character at the end, so I have some coverage for that. And we move on over to getting all of the buffs required for the overloaded reaction, because that was the one we were using the most here. And at this point, it's the last floor. So we don't really care too much about what I'm using to upgrade myself here. I'm just pretty much exhausting all my points because they'll serve me no purpose. It's not like you get extra points for saving all your points at the end, or like some kind of achievement for saving all your points at the end. Like, they're there to be used and they're there to help you. That's all they're there for. So you might as well just use them on everything possible. So I pretty much was just upgrading all the overloaded reactions and then the Geo ones as well, just because I did have some Geo characters there and I wasn't sure what the final boss was. But really the whole idea was just get as many characters on the roster so I don't have to minimize team compositions, and then just getting the reactions up to as high as I could in terms of level, because I believe like 4 or level 5 is the highest the cards can go, which basically just means that you're getting more damage whenever you proc the reaction, and that's just putting it in layman's terms so it's easy to understand. So again, just exhausting all of the Phantasm flowers until I can't buy anything left. And then we go into the final battle, the cinematic scene. And you already know that we've got something special in store here. We have to use this Arlecchino because she's been sitting here waiting pretty much since the very beginning. So we're using C2R1 Arlecchino, a C6 Bennett, Yelan, who I think is C0 if I'm not mistaken, and then Zhongli, the universal ultimate buffer. Once I saw the enemy, he's not Geo based, I was like, oh, it's over. At this point, I just start using Bennett straight into Yelan. By that point, Arlecchino can use her charge attack, get the Pyro Infusion, and you see we hit 167,000 on that swipe when it was vulnerable. Now it's in its invisible state, and it takes a lot less damage, but now it's about to come out of that invisibility form, and it's all about rotation. So Bennett into Yelan yet again, use her ult, charge attack with Arlecchino, get the Pyro Infusion, and do some serious damage there. Once I've done about maybe like 5 to 10 more attacks, I'll probably use her ultimate to get the restart of the stack. Oh no, I'm not, because I'm going to start attacking these little guys instead, because once you break one, that's when it comes out of its invisibility, and then it becomes vulnerable again. So now that I've got my shield up, it's going to be straight to Bennett once it's recalculated and becomes invisible again. So it'll go straight to Bennett. Oh, I guess maybe Yelan into Bennett for some reason. And then Arlecchino, ultimate into her skill, charge attack, and then it'll be dead from there. Give it like 3 more seconds. Absolutely beautiful. Not the best rotation. I definitely screwed that last one up. But I knew that there was so much damage on the table there that I didn't even need a perfect rotation. And I was just trying to end it as quickly as possible. And that's it. I'm talking directly to you, the owner of this account on the EU server. I jumped on your account not knowing what you had, messing around with all these builds to get these characters up to functional level, upgrading a few things here and there, and using your C2 Kaniche on 3 different floors because you love that man so much. And he did come through for me, I won't lie. But overall, I took your account from the gutters, 3 different elements that you had no faith in, talking about Pyro, Geo, and Electro, and I made that my little you-know-what. Ran through it for you, cleared all floors, and made it look easy with 6 stars, mind you, which those are just for like bragging rights. They really don't mean anything. Like I got 9 stars on my run. I'll probably do another run just to get 10 stars so it looks good, but really it means nothing. So I just want to say your account, not bad. I actually did enjoy myself a lot, and I would do this again wholeheartedly. If you want me to jump on your account ever again, just ask and I'll make a fun little video out of it every single time. With that being said, if you guys enjoy the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if for some reason if there's anyone out there who wants some help with their Abyss or wants some help with their Imaginarium Theater, I'm here to help, guys. I love both of these end game modes, and the whole big thing for me is it's always been the challenging things of the games that I love that keeps me coming back for more and gives me the most enjoyment. So if you guys are struggling with Visionary mode or the Abyss floor 12 and floor 11, I've got you. Don't be afraid. You could be the next one featured in this video. Again, with that being said, that's going to mark the end of the video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.